Rain hammered the windshield of the black BMW like the sky was unleashing all its fury on the highway. Alexandra Reed, dressed in a pearl-colored two-piece suit, kept her hands steady on the wheel, while the digital clock on the dashboard read 5:47 in the afternoon. She was running late. The storm had started suddenly about 20 miles south of Portland. Now thunder shook even the ground beneath the vehicle's tires, and the wipers fought to keep the glass clear enough to make out the road. "No, no, no," Alexandra muttered, feeling a strange vibration under her feet. "What the hell now?" The car coughed, literally. One jerk, then another. The dashboard lights flickered like the car was begging for rest. Finally, with one last metallic sigh, the engine died completely. "Perfect," she shouted, hitting the steering wheel. "Just today. Just freaking today." She pulled out her cell phone, but the screen showed the unthinkable. No signal. She looked around. The highway was almost empty, dark, with trees bending from the force of the wind. Drops drummed furiously on the roof. Fear, silent and viscous, began to creep up her spine. Then she saw it. A sign, half-rusted, barely lit by a flickering streetlight. It read, in somewhat faded white letters, "Martinez Auto Shop." Sighing with resignation, she got out of the car. The wind pushed the door hard. As soon as she set foot outside, the rain enveloped her completely. Within seconds, her white blouse became transparent, clinging to her skin. Her linen pants absorbed water like paper. She cursed under her breath as she ran the few yards to the shop entrance. She pushed open the metal door. A little bell rang. "Hello?" she said, her voice breaking as she pulled her soaked hair from her face. "Anyone here?" From the back, among disassembled engines and shelves with greasy parts, a man emerged. He was about 35, with a trimmed beard, dark brown hair with messy curls, and eyes that contrasted with everything in the shop, clear, warm, attentive. "Good afternoon," he greeted, wiping his hands with a rag. "Everything okay?" Alexandra was about to respond with the cold tone she used with her employees, but something in the way he looked at her, without judgment, without lust, just genuine concern, made her hesitate. "My car broke down on the highway. It's a few yards from here," she explained. "I have no signal. Could you help me?" The man nodded. "Sure. But first," he took off the denim jacket he was wearing and held it out to her. "Take this, you're soaked." Alexandra hesitated. She looked at the jacket, then at her blouse, then at the man. "Don't worry, it doesn't bite," he added with a slight smile. "You can use the bathroom in the back if you want to dry off a bit." She nodded, somewhat bewildered. She took the jacket with trembling hands. It was thick, smelling of grease and soap, but surprisingly warm. She put it on without thinking too much and walked to the indicated bathroom. There, in front of the fogged mirror, she looked at herself. Smeared makeup, hair a mess, the useless blouse. And yet, she felt safe. She couldn't remember the last time someone had been kind to her without wanting something in return. When she came out, the man was already back with her car, towed inside the shop. "I'm Michael," he said, opening the hood. "Michael Martinez." "Alexandra." "Alexandra?" "Reed," she added, knowing that name opened doors. But Michael didn't react. "Nice to meet you, Alexandra." He immersed himself in his work. Sure hands, precise movements. Alexandra sat in an old plastic chair. The sound of the storm outside was deafening, but inside the shop there was a strange calm. "Does it always rain like this in Hillsborough?" she asked, more to break the silence than out of real curiosity. "No, but when it rains it really goes for it," Michael responded without taking his eyes off the engine. "This storm brought everything with it. And you don't lose power." "Sometimes. But I already know the trick to keep it from affecting the shop." A comfortable silence fell. Alexandra watched him. There was something about him, an authenticity hard to find in boardrooms or luxury hotels. "Ever thought about leaving here?" she asked suddenly. "Yeah," he admitted. "But then I thought, what for? Here I have what I need. Work, people I know, my dog, my sister nearby. Not everyone dreams of skyscrapers." Alexandra fell silent. She had run all her life chasing success, chasing recognition, chasing respect. And yet there were days when she felt empty. The conversation continued, soft between sporadic laughs and silences without discomfort. She told him, almost without realizing it, about her company, about the sacrifices she made to get where she was. Michael listened with genuine attention, without interrupting her, without judging her. She was surprised at how easy it was to talk to him. Almost 2 hours passed until he closed the hood with a click and wiped his hands. All set, that's it was the alternator. The water almost took it out. "And how much do I owe you?" she asked, taking out her wallet from her designer purse. Michael wrote something on a sheet of paper, tore it off and handed it to her. Alexandra looked at it and frowned. "Only this?" she said. "Don't take this the wrong way, but this is worth double minimum." Michael smiled. "That's the fair price. What the part cost and a bit for my time, nothing more." "But, Miss Alexandra," he interrupted, looking at her firmly but without harshness, "I don't sell my soul, I just fix cars." She looked at him, incredulous. Then she lowered her gaze. She put away the exact amount. She looked up again. "Thank you, Michael." He nodded. "Drive carefully, okay?" Alexandra left the shop without saying more. She got in the car. She turned on the engine. It worked like new. She looked in the rearview mirror. Michael was standing at the entrance, arms crossed, watching the rain continue to fall. For the first time in a long time, Alexandra felt that something inside her had moved, and she had no idea why. Since that afternoon in the storm, Alexandra couldn't get Michael out of her head. The image of his jacket on her shoulders, the clear gaze, the firm and serene tone, everything about him clashed with the men she usually dealt with. It was as if she had discovered a corner of the world she never knew she needed. 5 days passed before she found her first excuse. "I'm going to check out some stores in Beaverton," she told her assistant, as they organized the weekly agenda. "And since I'm in the area, I'm going to swing by Hillsborough. There are artisan suppliers I want to evaluate." Lie. There were no suppliers, just a strange impulse pulling her back. She showed up unannounced at the shop. Michael had his head under the hood of an old VW van, humming an old rock song. When he saw her, he raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Alexandra." "Hi," she said, taking off her sunglasses. "I was just in the area and thought I'd say hello." Michael wiped his hands and approached, smiling with a mixture of bewilderment and genuine pleasure. "And your car? Is it not acting up?" "No, it's still perfect, but that's not why I came." From that day on, the visits became frequent. Sometimes she arrived with absurd pretexts, that the air conditioning sounded weird, that she heard a click when braking, that she needed a recommendation to paint her garage. Other times, she simply stopped by for coffee at the shop. Michael, though skeptical at first, began to expect her without admitting it. She talked about her world, meetings, numbers, mergers, express trips. He told her about engines, about customers who came to pay with eggs or homemade bread, about the last movie he saw at the neighborhood drive-in. And in the midst of that duality, something warm was born, something that didn't look like anything else. One afternoon, sitting on stacked tires, they shared a pulled pork sandwich and a bottle of soda. "You're weird, you know," Michael said suddenly, looking at her with a crooked smile. "Weird how?" "Weird in a good way. Like, you don't fit any mold." Alexandra lowered her gaze, squeezing the foam cup between her hands. "You don't either." The silence became dense. Then he extended his hand and, with some awkwardness, took hers. They didn't kiss that time, but it wasn't necessary anymore. The bond was being woven thread by thread. However, nothing in life is completely simple, especially when worlds collide. Michael's friends began to notice the changes, that he was dressing better, that he had a lovesick look. One night at an impromptu barbecue, one of them said it straight. "Dude, are you really going out with that rich blonde chick?" "Her name is Alexandra," Michael responded, cutting the meat without looking at them. "Mike, don't get your hopes up. Women like that just play around. You think she's going to leave her world for you. You're her small-town hobby." Michael didn't respond, but that phrase stuck to his chest like an oil stain. At the other end, Alexandra also faced her own battles. "A mechanic, Alex, really. Sophie, her business partner, said to her on a video call, "I'm not trying to judge, but you're playing with fire. Those kinds of stories never end well." "I'm not asking for your blessing, Sophie. I just wanted to tell you." "Just be careful, girl. You're a public figure. Everyone's watching you." Those words hurt her too, not because of the judgment, but because, for the first time, she felt she was doing something she couldn't explain with business logic. One Friday, Alexandra decided to take the next step. Her company was organizing a gala in San Francisco, an exclusive event with international investors. She thought it would be a perfect opportunity to show she had nothing to hide. "I want you to come with me," she told Michael while he was changing attire. "Where?" "To a gala, at the Fairmont Hotel." Michael dropped the tool. "Me? To that?" "Yes. You don't have to do anything. Just accompany me." Michael swallowed. "Alex, I don't have clothes for that. I don't know which fork to use. They're gonna look at me like I'm a freak." "I'll take care of the suit. You don't have to worry about anything." And so she did. She sent him a tailor for measurements, a navy blue suit, white Italian shirt, leather shoes, everything impeccable. When Michael received the bags, he felt strange, not grateful, not excited, strange. That same afternoon, he went to see her. "Alexandra, I need to talk to you." "Sure. What's up?" He left the bags on a table in the shop. "Thanks for this, but I'm not going to wear it." "What?" "Why?" "Because I'm not a project. I don't want you to transform me into something I'm not just so I fit into your world." "That's not it, Michael. I just wanted you to feel comfortable." "No, you wanted them not to see me as the mechanic. But that's what I am, and I'm not ashamed of it." Alexandra froze. She wanted to say something, explain herself, but he was already walking toward the door. "Michael, wait." "No, Alex, this isn't going to work if one of us has to stop being who they are to be with the other." And he left. She stood in the middle of the shop, surrounded by engine parts, with the distant sound of thunder, marking the end of something that had barely begun to be born. The days after the argument felt like a thick fog. Alexandra tried to resume her routine with the same determination as always. Meetings in the morning, conferences with investors, calls that couldn't wait. But nothing filled her. She ate little, slept worse. Her gaze got lost among spreadsheets, and her responses became increasingly curt. Her mother, Margaret, noticed from the first moment. An elegant woman with a measured voice and hawk-like gaze, she didn't need much to understand when something was wrong with her daughter. "You look worn out," she told her one afternoon while they had coffee in the family home's garden. "Did something happen?" Alexandra shook her head as she always did, but Margaret wasn't fooled. "Is it because of the young man from the shop?" Alexandra looked up, surprised. "How do you know about him?" "Your eyes sparkled every time you talked about that place, and they don't anymore. So, something happened." Alexandra sighed. She was silent for a few seconds before speaking. "We fought over something silly. I tried to help him, and he felt like I was humiliating him. And you? Do you think you humiliated him?" "No. I just wanted him to fit into my world, so they wouldn't make him feel less." "And did he want to fit in?" her mother asked gently. That question pierced her like a knife, because the truth was she never asked him. She just assumed. Later that same day, Margaret did something she had never done before. She looked for Michael's number. She didn't ask her daughter. She had saved it after a visit he made once to drop her off at home. The call was brief. "Michael, good afternoon. I'm Alexandra's mother." There was silence on the other end. Then a surprised voice. "Good afternoon, Ma'am. Sorry to bother you, but I want to tell you something. In my more than 60 years, I've seen my daughter in all her facets, ambitious, determined, strong, but never as happy as when she was with you. I don't know what happened, nor do I want to know. I just know that since you two aren't together anymore, she's gone back to being the woman she was before, empty." Michael didn't respond immediately. He sat on the curb in front of the shop, with the phone pressed to his ear, feeling the world stop. "Thank you for telling me that, Mom," he whispered. "Don't thank me. Do what you have to do if you still feel something for her. Because my daughter does feel something for you. That's obvious from miles away." She hung up without saying more. Michael spent that night awake, The conversation with Mrs. Margaret swirled in his head, mixed with memories. Alexandra's laughter in the plastic chair, the way she wrinkled her nose when she drank cold coffee, how her eyes sparkled when she talked about her projects. He had let her go out of pride, out of fear, out of not feeling enough. But what if she never asked him to be someone different? What if the problem wasn't the suit or the gala, but his own insecurity? The next morning, Michael put his old grey suit, the only decent one he had, which he had worn at his sister's wedding years ago, in a plastic bag. He bought a bouquet of roses at Betty's flower shop. They weren't spectacular. Some were already opening too much, but they had fragrance, life. He took a bus toward San Francisco at 8 o'clock in the morning. The trip was long, with curves and intermittent rain. He didn't sleep a single minute. Upon arrival, he changed in the bus station bathroom. He combed his hair as best he could, adjusted his tie in front of a scratched mirror. The bouquet was wrapped in newspaper. He arrived at Alexandra's corporate building shortly before 3 in the afternoon. The city sky was grey, about to break into rain. Michael planted himself in front of the security guard. "I'm here to see Miss Alexandra Reed." The guard looked him up and down, suspicious. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but tell her I'm Michael Martinez. She knows me." The receptionist had already risen from her seat, nervous about the presence of this out-of-place man. But something in Michael's eyes, something as firm and serene as the first time he saw Alexandra, made her pick up the phone. Minutes later, an assistant came down with hurried steps. She looked at him with surprise, with doubt, but led him to the elevator. On the 20th floor, the doors opened. The office was glass, with a view of all downtown. Executives in expensive suits stopped to look at the stranger walking down the hallway with a bouquet of worn flowers and an outdated suit. Alexandra had her back turned, reviewing a document at her desk. When she heard her name, she turned slowly. Seeing him, her face went pale. Michael didn't say anything at first. He walked until he was in front of her. The words came out slowly, with his heart beating in his throat. "I'm not here to ask you to understand me. I'm here to tell you I was a fool. I let my pride speak louder than what I feel for you, and that I'll never forgive myself for that. But if there's still something of us, even just a little bit, I want to stay. Not as the man you changed, but as the man you chose." Alexandra said nothing. Her eyes filled with tears. The room fell silent until she took a step forward and hugged him tightly. It didn't matter that everyone was watching. The expensive suits or the whispers didn't matter. In that instant, the only real thing was the two of them, merged in an embrace that tasted of return, of forgiveness, of love. And when they kissed, the collective murmur of the 20th floor transformed into absolute silence. No one expected it, but no one could deny it. What was between them was real. A year had passed since Michael went up with cheap roses to the 20th floor of that glass tower. A year since Alexandra hugged him in front of everyone, defying prejudices and expectations. It wasn't easy. Integrating two such different worlds required patience, effort, and a lot of love. But they made it. Alexandra continued growing her businesses, expanding her chain of stores throughout the country. And when the time came to reorganize the national logistics, she knew exactly who she wanted in charge of maintenance for her branches. "I want you to be the national maintenance coordinator," she told him one night while they ate tacos at a corner spot in Hillsborough. "Nobody better than you to understand how to take care of what I build." Michael was quiet for a few seconds. Then he looked up. "I accept, but with one condition. Whatever you want. I want to keep my shop. Martinez Auto Shop doesn't close. I don't want to stop being who I was when you met me." Alexandra smiled. She took his hand on the table. "Then let it be so. I didn't come to change you, just to share life with you." They chose to get married without cameras, without press, without unnecessary luxuries. Only those who mattered, family, some close friends, and the shop. That small space smelling of grease and paint had witnessed the beginning of their story, and they wanted it to also witness the beginning of their life together. The mechanics helped clean the place. They hung yellow lights between the shelves, put clay pots with fresh flowers, and cleaned the old metal shutter until it shone. Alexandra arrived in a simple white dress with her hair down. Michael waited for her in a white rolled-up shirt, no tie, with a smile that didn't fit on his face. The ceremony was short but moving. Margaret spoke the most heartfelt words. "I didn't always understand this, love, but I learned that what's real doesn't need to be understood, just lived." When the vows finished, and the oldest mechanic in the shop, old Roger, shouted, "Long live the bride and groom," the sky began to cloud over. At first there were just a few timid drops. Then, as if the universe wanted to remind them of the day they met, the rain fell hard. But this time, they were ready. Michael took out from an old box a huge umbrella, blue canvas with metal tips. He opened it with a laugh and extended it over both of them. "Ready for another storm, boss lady?" he asked, looking at her mischievously. "Always, maestro," Alexandra responded, taking his arm. They stood under the umbrella, watching people run for shelter, watching the shop become a party of laughter and wet feet. The music kept playing, the tacos kept coming off the grill, and the rain didn't stop anything. On the contrary, it gave everything an old movie feel. As night fell, when the last guests were leaving, Michael and Alexandra stayed alone in front of the shop. The warm light of the streetlight illuminated the entrance, and water continued sliding down the roofs like a constant murmur. Holding hands, they walked to the metal shutter. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready," she answered. Together, they took the rope and lowered the shop's shutter, slowly closing the place where it all began. The metallic roar was covered by the rain, like a noisy blessing from heaven, and there they stood, side by side, under the same umbrella, facing the world. The storm continued, but this time they weren't alone. They faced it together. And that, for both of them, changed everything.